I, William Wyatt of Salem, coaster, testify and say that last Monday evening, being the 5th day of March current, I was in Boston, down at Treat's Wharf, where my vessel was lying, and hearing the bells ring, supposed there was a fire in town. Whereupon I hastened up to the town house on the south side of it, where I saw an officer of army lead out the guardhouse. There 7 or 8 soldiers of the army, and led them down, and seeing him haste to the custom house on the north side of the King's Street, where I followed them, and when the officer had got there with the men, he bid them face about. I stood just below them on the left wing, and the said officer ordered his men to load, which they did accordingly, with the utmost dispatch, and they remained about 6 minutes, where their firelocks rested and bayonets fixed, but not standing in exact order. I observed a considerable number of young lads, and here and there a man among them, about the middle of the street, facing the soldiers, but not within 10 or 12 feet distant from them. I observed some of them had sticks in their hands, laughing, shouting, huzzaing, crying fire, but could not observe that any of them threw anything at the soldiers, or threatened them in any way. Then the said officer retired from before the soldiers, and stepped behind them towards the right wing, bid the soldiers fire, they not firing. He presently again bid them fire, they yet not firing. He stopped and said, "Fire, be the consequence what it will." Then the second man on the left wing fired off his gun. Then, after a very short pause, they fired, one after another, as quick as possible. And the people being withdrawn from before the soldiers, most of them further down the street, he turned his gun toward them and fired upon them. Immediately after the principal firing, I saw 3 of the people fall down in the street. Presently, after the last gun was fired off, the said officer, who had commanded the soldiers as above to fire, sprung before them, waving his sword or stick, and saying, "Ye rascals, what do ye fire for?" and struck up the gun of one of the soldiers, who loaded again, whereupon they seemed confounded, and fired no more. I then went up behind them, to the right wing, where one of the people was lying, to see whether he was dead, where there were 4 or 5 people about him, one of them saying he was dead. And I remember, as the said officer was going down with the soldiers towards the custom house, a gentleman spoke to him and said, "Captain Preston, for God's sake, keep your men in order, and mind you what you are about." And further not I shall not say.